All right, so we will reconvene open session. We'll start with our land acknowledgement. We recognize that the Mount Diablo Unified School District sits on the territory of the Confederated Villages of the Lishawn, the ancestral and unceded land of the Bay-Miwok and Northern Yokut, the members of the Sovereign Verona Band of Contra Costa County. As members of the MDUSD community, it is vitally important that we not only recognize the history of the land in which we learn, but also we recognize that the land that we inhabit and learn on is the ancestral land of these people who are alive and flourishing members of MDUSD and broader Bay Area communities today. You may stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so that moves us to 6.3, review and approval of the agenda. Dr. Clark, do you have any changes this evening?
Yes, I would like to pull item 14.16 and also 17.1. We'll bring them back at the next meeting.
I make a motion we approve the agenda with those changes.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion from Trustee Mason and a second from Trustee Nzewi. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0. That brings us to 7.0, report out of action taken in closed session. For 7.1, negotiations, the board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives regarding represented employees pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The board received information. For 7.2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee, Government Code Section 54957B1. In closed session, the board considered the non-reelection release of 15 of probationary certificated employees under Education Code Section 44929.21 and voted by a vote of 5 in favor and 0 against. To direct the district to send notice that they will be non-reelected and released at the end of the 2023 to 2024 school year from their certificated positions. And in closed session, the board considered the release of 7 certificated administrative employees under Education Code Section 44951 and 44929.21 and voted by a vote of 5 in favor and 0 against to direct the district to send notice that they will be released and reassigned or released and non-reelected at the end of the 2023 to 2024 school year from their certificated administrative positions. And then for 7.3, existing litigation, conference with legal counsel, Government Code Section 54956, one case. In a vote of 5-0, we accepted the agreement. And so that moves us to 8.0, public comment. And for public comment, the public may address the board regarding any item not on the agenda. Public comment will also then be allowed on each specific agenda item. And generally we do 3 minutes, and kind of based on the number of comments, we'll see if we can do the full 3 minutes tonight. And I think based on what I'm seeing, 6 cards, I think 3 minutes. Yeah, we can do that. We're glad to do that. Okay. So we will start with Linda Ortega.
Good afternoon, or good evening, President McFerrin, trustees, Dr. Clark, members of the audience. I'm here tonight to share my experience with parent-teacher conferences. As you know, I have been an elementary school teacher for many years. When I was a 4th grade teacher years ago, I always had a full class of 34 students. which meant that I had to schedule 34 separate parent-teacher conferences. As the only Spanish-speaking teacher on campus, I was fortunate that I did not need to schedule an interpreter. However, some of my colleagues who did not speak Spanish would ask me if I could step in when they could not get an interpreter. So, of course, I was glad to help. When scheduling these conferences, I quickly learned that my students lived in different types of households. Some students live with two parents, some parents shared custody of their child, and so I had to schedule separate conferences for them, which added to my conferences. Some were being raised by other members of their family, like aunties or grandparents. Over the years, I started to have more and more students who were new to our country. During these conferences, I always started by asking my parents how they thought their child was doing. This would show them that their thoughts mattered to me and that I was listening. This also helped put them at ease, and we would spend time getting to know each other. I knew that the purpose of these conferences was to share their child's academic progress. But what often happens is that these parents would ask me questions like, who can they go to for help with food, clothing, and other services? I found that this was a great opportunity for me to share all the wonderful resources our school, and our district had to offer. My concern is, if a decision is to reduce the number of weeks for parent-teacher conferences, it would limit valuable time that parents and teachers need to speak privately about their students' progress and/or needs. Parents and students need to know that they belong to a school community and that the district, the school, is listening and cares about them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Gina Hayes?
Good evening, Superintendent and members of the Governing Board. For a full year, the Measure J CBOC has requested that the district provide the committee with access to independent legal counsel to review concerns with the energy savings contract awarded to Schneider Electric and the amendments to that contract. The contract and amendment is almost 1/3 of the Measure J bond money, or about $50 million. On May 19th, 2023, the Measure J CBOC formally requested that the board approve our request for independent legal counsel, along with consideration of an expanded performance audit due to concerns with expenditures and contracts. As of today, the district nor the board has approved our request to complete a thorough review of these contracts and their amendments. The district continues to ignore requests from the Measure J CBOC chair and members to approve the current proposal for 30 hours of independent review. The purpose of this committee is to inform the public concerning the expenditures of bond revenue. To fulfill this responsibility, the Oversight Committee is expressly required to actively review and report on the proper expenditures of taxpayers' money for school construction and to verify that the funds are being spent only on authorized purposes. The Oversight Committee must promptly alert the public to any waste or improper expenditures. It is critical that the public have faith that bond money is being spent wisely, and it is our responsibility to inform them of that. For this reason, there is a great need to establish good faith processes now. By not approving this request, this does not feel transparent or a district acting in good faith processes. I'm here tonight to again ask for approval of the Measure J CBOC request for 30 hours of independent legal counsel review. Our committee should not have to wait a year and work so hard to get the answers we need. To be perfectly honest, under these conditions, I would not support a proposal for another construction bond, and neither should you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane Balch Enlow?
Good evening, Dr. Clark and trustees. It's nice to see you again. I'm here not for myself, because I am here for my union. I am here for my teachers. I am here to beg, plead, and borrow whatever it takes to get you to extend that 1 week that you have decided for parent conferences to 2. You are asking a lot from our teachers by putting it down to 1. You're cutting their hours from 15 hours to 7.5 hours in some cases to do 30 conferences. Some of which they already do outside of the hours. They'll go till at 5. They might leave a little early one day and come back so they can do some evening ones for their parents that work at 5 or 6 p.m. And now you're asking them to do even more. And here are some of the things that the teachers have said that why they would need 2 weeks instead of 1 that you are cutting it down to. I understand your reasoning, but I think you really need to hear their reasons. Vulnerable students with more needs would be shortchanged by this proposal as there's already insufficient time to discuss their situations and brainstorm solutions. Families who speak other languages than English are marginalized by the lack of time for translating and the likely unavailability of translators during the shortened window, because now you all of a sudden have a lot more teachers in a smaller amount of time that need translators. And some of the teachers that do translating have to do their own classes, and you're asking them to start splitting themselves into 2s and 3s, which is really hard. Instruction would be impacted as teachers would be conducting conference times at times they would otherwise use for planning lessons, because not all the conferences will fit in that 1 week window. They just won't. They won't fit. I used to teach elementary school. I know. Teacher health and morale would likely suffer, as teachers would very likely dedicate even more personal time for meetings with families in order to protect these relationships from management neglect. Relationships would be damaged by the stress and conflict inherent in limited flexibility in scheduling. Another impossible expectation increases the concerns that management is disconnected from the real world of teaching today's students. I know that you have talked about you really want to do well with relationships, Dr. Clark. You've talked about relationships with the families and with the students, and we want to support those relationships. But with 7.5 hours cut down from 15, you're asking a whole lot with what they don't have already. So again, I'm here to kindly ask on their behalf. I teach middle school, but I used to teach elementary school. I'm here to kindly ask that you rethink that position and kindly go back to the 2 weeks, whether it's later on in the year or something else. But please, 2 weeks is what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Yan?
Oh, good. The time doesn't start until I actually start speaking, apparently, which is a nice thing. Good evening, board members. Good evening, Dr. Clark. Good evening, community. Good evening, fellow Medea members. And good evening to the World Wide Web. Wait, where's that camera? Oh, there it is. Linda did speak to a lot of these different points that we've been talking about already at this point. And our fellow media members, we received over 250 responses just within a week time span to the point of what effect that reducing conference times from 2 weeks to 1 week would have. I am an elementary school teacher. I've taught within the district for 22 years. We've looked at surrounding districts, and surrounding districts, sure, there are some that do have 1 week, but they're also let out sooner where it is they have more prep time. As an upper grade teacher, my max class size, 34. 34 conferences over a 2-week period, even splitting them up would be 17 each week, which on average is over 3.5 each day, on top of teaching those 34 students. Oh, by the way, I have a combination class. Oftentimes I say that to people and they're saying, what does that mean? That you're actually teaching both 4th grade and 5th grade content to these students? That too takes time to prep. And by cutting our conference time, our teachers are having even less time to prep for those next days. What this really amounts to is a lack of respect towards teachers, asking them to do more with less. Let's put more and more onto the plates of these teachers. And yet we state that we want to create a destination district. First thing overall, that everything that is built on, you think about, we are a service industry. We are built on relationships. And that relationship starts with that parent and the child and the teacher. You're cutting right to where it is that it would make the most impact. Yes, my background was economics statistics, but I know coming into education that my first thing to do was to establish that relationship with the children. And that first contact with the parent and having that conversation with them, speaking with them. Oh, yeah, let's rush it. Let's see what happens. You already know what will happen. It's not worth it. Let's value relationships. Rethink your proposal. There's not even a need to set a date to bargain. Just take it right off the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Trisha Collins?
Good evening, Superintendent and trustees and audience. I'm Trisha Collins, and I teach second grade at Silverwood Elementary. And I'd like to speak tonight on the topic that everyone's been speaking about of reducing conferences from 2 weeks to 1 week. I did email all of you last night with a lot of these points, so I'm just going to condense, not say all the details I gave you last night. But I really think that cutting the conference weeks down to 1 week would really be a detrimental decision for our students, our families, and for the teachers. And here are some of the main reasons why. One, I personally meet with my families for 30 minutes. I mean, some teachers do last 20, but it's all I'm giving these families for an entire school year to learn about them, to learn about their kids. They have so much they want to tell me before I even tell them anything. Like those 30 minutes are just critical. Second, parents really need a couple of weeks of dates to choose from. I mean, they have to take off from work. Now we're going to be asking them possibly to go earlier in the day. They just need those dates. I know I needed 2 weeks of dates when I had to go to my kids' conferences. Number three, many parents miss their conference the first time. They either forget or they have a conflict that comes up. So it's really nice to have that second week to fill in those missed ones. Number four, conferences requiring translators take twice as long. So they really take 2 slots. And some schools have a lot of kids that need translators. So they really need the extra time. I usually have maybe 3, but that right there is six slots for me. And I don't have that many second language students. Number 5, just the sheer mental exhaustion of it all. If we were to try to cram 31 to 35 conferences into 5 days, plus planning, plus teaching, it's just not healthy for the teachers, for the kids. We will be so exhausted. It'll just be hard to do all the planning and teaching and just be great teachers for that week. And let's see, our current schedule allows for the flexibility and the time needed to adequately meet with our families. Also, the way it is now, like some nights I might go a little bit longer because I might be able to handle, say, doing 4 in a day or 5, because next week I know that I'll have a day where I'll have just 2 or 3. So I can handle longer, harder, because I know I'm going to get a little bit of a break next week. So we only have 1 time per year to meet with families. So it's just critical to really value this time. I met with my staff and we suggested at Silverwood, we suggested why not move it back to December, the 2 weeks before break, like we used to do. And then also Trustee Cound answered me back today and had some really good questions. She said, well, why not 1 week? A lot of the districts around us are doing 1 week. So I looked into it a little bit. I texted friends. And in Walnut Creek, they release at 12:15. I thought I had 3 minutes. I have more time? No. Oh, okay. Yeah, just basically, Walnut Creek and Martinez only do 1 week, but they only have 23 and 24 kids. We have 31 and 34. So we need to get out a lot earlier if we're going to do this 1 week than noon or 12:15. It's just, and it's a lot to do 7 conferences in 1 day, plus all the teaching to get this all done in 1 week. And that gives you no free ones next week. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Wayne Calhoun?
Hello, I'm gonna try not to say too much, because I don't want to say anything that would backfire on me. I just want to make a point. Dr. Clark, you're listed as a superintendent to watch. And I really admire what I've seen of you so far. And I don't want to watch you go down in flames from the actions of your district or whatever you oversee. My concern is school bus safety and the safety of the students. And I have a lot of knowledge about it. I've been driving a school bus for 5 years, and it's systemic everywhere. I'm not pointing any finger at you, but you need to get all the drivers, mechanics, directors, everybody on the same page. There's too much fragmentation. You need to pull it, have a meeting, tell everybody what the ground rules are, and they can follow it. Because there's a lot of heckling, bullying, and things like that. So, for instance, today, I drove a bus where I found about 10 issues where the previous driver found 0, mostly because they're afraid to mention anything. I don't know if afraid's the right word, but whatever the process is, it's broken. And I think that one way to fix it would be to gamify things. Right now, the only thing that we have that's gamified is seniority. There's a giant board that shows Teamster seniority. And people strive to move up that board. School bus safety should be the same way. A kid's going to get killed or maimed. That's our job, to deliver them safely without killing them, maiming them, or abusing them. And hopefully we can educate them. It's not mentioned in our job description, but it's a fun part of the job. I'm having a blast working for you, and I don't want to jeopardize my job. You know what I've brought forth so far, and the only pushback I've gotten is that I can't use my nickname, my preferred name. It's not even a nickname, it's my preferred name. I think I've overcome that, but when I bring serious things to y'all, I'd appreciate being quick action. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that moves us to communications district organizations. Do we have any speakers? No? Okay. So then we move to 10.0 recognitions and resolutions. Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. This evening, I bring before this board 3 resolutions, and it is always just a pleasure to be able to highlight these important contributions and things that this board recognizes and holds as a priority, and really as an example of what school districts really value and whatnot. So tonight, I bring before you Resolution 23/24-48 in recognition of March as Women's History Month. Whereas American women of every culture, class, and ethnic background have participated in the founding and building of our nation, made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation, and played a critical role in shaping the economic, cultural, and social fabric of our society. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District proclaims the month of March as Women's History Month and encourages all schools to commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional materials. And be it further resolved that the resolution be distributed to all schools within the district. Madam President, this item is now in the hands of the board.
Okay, are there any questions or comments?
Just happy to be working together with all of you on this all women's board. No disrespect to Dr. Clark, but we have really enjoyed even our student board member. So I think it's important for our students in our schools to be learning about all of the achievements of women throughout history and throughout the world. And so I appreciate this recognition of Women's History Month. I move to approve Resolution 23/24-48 in recognition of women's history.
I will second that as a woman that was born in March.
All right, that's a motion from Trustee Count and a second from Trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. I now present item 10.2, and this is resolution 23/24-49 in recognition of March as Prescription Drug Awareness Month. I just want to give acknowledgement again to the staff of the Mount Diablo Unified School District for the work that we've been doing in trying to bring fentanyl awareness to everybody. And unfortunately, oftentimes it's over-the-counter medication and whatnot that leads to people turning to the black market and misusing prescription drugs, and then they can fall victim of fentanyl. So I just, I want to acknowledge this board for your leadership in allowing us to present these presentations to our communities, families, students, and employees. So thank you. So in recognition of March as Prescription Drug Awareness Month, whereas over-the-counter OTC medications have a wider safety margin than prescription medications. They're usually used to treat common minor illnesses such as allergies or joint pain. A prescription is a medicine that can only be made available to a patient on a written instruction of an authorized health professional. Example of prescription drugs are as Adderall, Oxycodone, Narco, Vicodin, Zyrtex, Advil, Prozac, and Ritalin. And whereas every medication has some risk for harmful effects, when prescription drugs are misused, they can be just as dangerous as drugs that are made illegally. Whereas there were 7,385 deaths to opioid overdose in 2022, a slight increase from 2021 when California had 7,175 deaths related to opioid overdose per the California Department of Public Health, California Overdose Surveillance Dashboard. And whereas there were 6,473 deaths related to fentanyl overdoses in 2022, an increase from 2021 when California had 5,961 deaths related to fentanyl overdose. Whereas the Mount Diablo Unified School District encourages our community to support the DEA's next National Prescription Drug Take Back Day, which is Saturday, April 27th, 2024 at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Trying to see if it gives a location, but we'll announce that later. Therefore, be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District does hereby declare March 2024 as Prescription Drug Awareness Month and encourages all community members to participate in prescription drug abuse-related prevention programs and activities. Be it also resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District board members encourage all community members to pledge, spread the word, one pill can kill. Madam President, this item is now in the hands of the board.
Any questions or comments? I would just like really to briefly just mention my strong support and appreciation for all of the fentanyl awareness events that the district has put in. And I really appreciate the community for coming out to those events. And I do also want to share that I recently, kind of every year, we get kind of a refresher on at my school site about how to use Narcan, and I have Narcan on my campus, and I just really appreciate these efforts, just knowing that this could really impact anyone. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution 2324-49 in recognition of Prescription Drug Abuse Awareness Month.
Second. The motion from Trustee Nzaiwi and a second by Trustee Cound. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Do you want to speak on this? Okay. So Mike, come on up to the podium. So this is our next resolution is in support of National School Breakfast Week, March 4th through 8th, 2024. I'm going to read two sentences. Whereas the National School Breakfast Program was made permanent by Congress in 1975 after being piloted in high schools beginning in 1966. And whereas the research has indicated that students who eat breakfast have better attention and memory and reduce absenteeism. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District Board of Education celebrates National School Breakfast Week from March 4th through the 8th, 2024. I would like to, you heard from her before, but this is our food service superstar, Alex.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Clark. I am also joined by some of our wonderful food service staff who are here,
Good.
I think for another issue.
Okay, but that's all right. That's all right.
Of National School Breakfast Week, and just offer my support for the resolution and also extend an invitation to any of you if you want to join us for breakfast on that week or any other week. We serve about 7,200 to 7,500 breakfasts every day across the district. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I know as a parent, I certainly appreciate all of the efforts to not only serve food and serve breakfast, but also to serve local, fresh, healthy food for breakfast. So with that, I move to approve Resolution 2324-50 in support of National School Breakfast Week.
Second.
It's a motion from Trustee Cowan and a second from Trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
And I just, again, just if you take Miss Emmett up on her her invitation to go have breakfast, when I visit schools in the morning and you just smell what they're cooking, it is absolutely incredible. So hopefully you take her up on that.
It's a great offer. Thank you. All right, so that should move us to 11.1 on the LCAP.
We have Ms. Sachs, who's going to give us our mid-year LCAP update. And yes, she's been working on this for some time, and I know she had lots of wonderful information to share.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Good evening, everyone. Board President McFerrin, Board Trustees. I am here to present on the mid-year LCAP update. So this is actually a new law that we are to follow, that each times before February 28th, we are to present to the board a mid-year check-in on our LCAP. There are certain areas that we have to address in the report, such as all available mid-year outcome data related to the metrics in the current LCAP, as well as all available mid-year expenditure and implementation data. So as we go through this report this evening, just to highlight, this is a very short summarized version of a much larger LCAP annual update that will be presented to you in June of this year. Looking for more information with regards to the ed code around this, you can take a look at board policy or AR 0460. So before we get into the report itself, I just wanted to clarify some information with regards to the mid-year actuals. The actuals were calculated as of December 31st, 2023. And when we say actuals, we mean the money that was spent, the contracts that were paid in full. We are not talking about encumbrances, which would be the full cost of an employee for the entire year. It would just be for this first part of the year all the way up to December 31st. Not all budgets or expenses are included in the LCAP. We really focus on LCFF supplemental as well as some of our title programs. But at a district of 380, let's say, $1 million, you're not going to see all of that in the plan itself. This plan, as I mentioned, does not include, or this report does not include encumbrances. And there are some reconciliations that will happen later in the year. And I'll highlight some of the significant differences between what's been budgeted and what's been spent in order to kind of bring your eye to that. Budgeted and mid-year actuals may differ due to the use of one-time funding sources for expenses, vacant position. Budgets are very fluid, and as multi-year one-time grant funds are being used, sometimes we make different decisions. Could be due to the COLA being adjusted, could be used that we're taking a look at the information that our state budget is coming, that information coming to us. So sometimes there are some variances. And we are required to explain that in the LCAP, the annual update. And then also the use of one-time funding and using most restricted resources first is really good budget practice. Budgets that we can carry over funding from year to year, we certainly want to do that and spend our most restricted money where we often have carryover restrictions. We take a look at that first. So as we consistently report to our community, we have 4 LCAP goals that we really focus in on. Just in brevity, the first goal is all around college and career readiness. Second goal around high quality, culturally responsive staff. 3 is engaged and empowered educational partners. And then of course, school support for our focal scholars. The Mount Diablo Unified School District has worked on a triangle in order to kind of create a visual around this. And I think what's really important to mention is that every professional development, all of our school plans, as we present to our advisory groups, we always try to anchor and ground our work within these 4 goals and this instructional triangle as our North Star. I really do want to thank the department leads who provided us information for this report, as well as our fiscal department and CBO Adrian Vargas for their information. So the long version of goal 1 is all about students will receive a high quality education in a safe and welcoming environment, equitable high expectations that really access to technology, as well as instruction in the California state standards. And we just love adding some of our Mount Diablo Scholar pictures to any presentation. How the report is set up is underneath the metrics, you're going to have the metric that we're reporting out on, the baseline, as well as the target, and then the 23-24 mid-year update. So what data do we have at this point of the year? What's really important to remember is that when we set the baseline and the target, that was like pre-pandemic. That was like an entire world ago. This was 2019, could be 20 or 21 if we added the metric later. So some of these areas we know look a little bit off just because our world is just entirely different than what we ended up experiencing through those few years through the pandemic. Certain things I just like to point out as we're taking a look at this is within the mid-year update, if we're the bold, the diagnostic number 2, that's considered a local measure, our iReady. We take a look at the metric for number 3, but at this point of the year, we've only done diagnostic number 2. Number 3 is actually, will be opening up the end of March into April. And so we will have updated data in order to add that to our LCAP as we update that. We've got graduation rates as well as the UC CSU. And the reason why there's that discrepancy between the graduation rate and UC CSU, just for the public, to have UC and CSU, you need to make sure that you not only take the proper courses that are really transferable on applications to the colleges, but also that you get a C or above. So students can graduate because they pass their classes. Possibly they might have a D, but that certainly would not count towards UC CSU eligibility. So from the metrics, orienting folks to our actions, budgeted expenditure, which of course was in the LCAP in June of 2023, our mid-year actuals, again, as of December 31st, 2023, and then some highlights, opportunities, challenges within that last column. Just a couple things I'd like to highlight on this slide for goal 1. Our first action is really around standards-based instruction, really about how we make sure that we've got the tools and the curriculums in the hands of the students in order to make sure that they can do their best work. We highlighted here a bit about the adoptions that we've been involved in, as well as some TK-12 prioritized standards work. Within action number 2, you're going to see that budgeted expenditure is 0, but as of this year, we've spent $183,000 on something. So sometimes when we're planning the LCAP in the spring, we have thoughts and ideas about what we're going to include in each of these actions. Some of the expenses end up in other actions. Underneath this one, there was a decision that was made during the summer into the beginning of the school year where we actually built some positions into this action 1.2, which is showing expenses as an actual, but we didn't set up the budget originally. So we've done all the paperwork. Fiscal services and business is very happy with us, but we did not budget it originally within our LCAP, but it is being recognized in our actual budget. Multi-tiered systems of support, as well as social emotional learning supports. Of course, that's all about how are we targeting resources, as well as supplemental support staff for our students. It could be counselors, it could be social workers. We are also wanting to highlight that within Action 3, we have actually hired additional staff members by reducing the staffing ratio to ensure that we have space within our classes so we do not have to go over class size maximums, and that we also do not have to impact families by having to do tons and tons of overflows. So that is something that's an additional expense for Mount Diablo that in the past we were staffed so tightly and we had a lot of overage, a lot of movement, a lot of transportation, which really made our families very sad. And it wasn't fair to our teachers that were teaching over their class size. So we were very specific about our LCAP and putting in supplemental budget in order to make sure that we keep some space within our classrooms. Underneath also goal 1, expanded learning programs, specialized academic programs such as NGSS in the Garden, AVID, IB, preschool literacy and readiness, which is amazing for our little young ones that work with their families in order to make sure those foundational skills are strong, anywhere between 16 months and 5 years. Instructional technology supports, and then what we have on that last line are single plans for student achievement, where our school site councils actually engage in site-based budgeting. Where do they want to spend their dollars? A couple of things to highlight here. That first line, $18 million being budgeted and only $3 million being spent. What is that all about? So when we originally set up the budget, it really involved the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program funding. And because the way that money was coming to us, the 18 million is actually several years of funding. And as we know, they released the funds. We were trying to set up the program. Then they released the second year of funds. And so you're seeing here not only the new entitlement, but also the entitlement from the year prior. As we move into the future, we're going to be cleaning that up as we develop our new LCAP to make sure that we're a little bit more specific around that. But I wanted to highlight that. As well as Action 8. We budgeted $486,000 and then 4.1 million. So what's all that about? Those are the Promethean boards that we spent so much time and effort between the budget and time and what we decided to spend the funding on. We decided that huge push to make sure that we had these boards in every single classroom, as well as training spaces. That was something we certainly wanted to make note of here. So goal 2 is making sure our employees are all high quality, culturally proficient, really providing a safe and equitable learning, engaging environment for kids. again, how the metrics are set up, as I mentioned. We do have some mid-year updates. We've got a percentage of teachers retained after the third year of teaching. Unfortunately, I did not have that number before putting this together for the board, but that will be in our final LCAP summary as it comes to you. One area that we can always, kind of adjust are some of our targets. So if we take a look, for example, on the percentage of time principals meeting agendas focused on data analysis and or instruction, we met our target goal. We met it already mid-year. So as we move forward, there are certain targets that as we take a look at our new LCAP, we want to make sure that we consistently adjust as necessary if we overshoot that goal. And I'm always up for doing that, making sure that if we've met the goal, we hold ourselves to a high standard. The last line really talks about our site administrators and how they led professional development on institutionalized racism, implicit or explicit bias. And that is certainly at this point of the year, 100%. We started in the beginning as our baseline is, did they have the information? Did they have the resources? And now we're at, have they led this work at their site? And they have. Goal 2 with regards to actions, the training and standards-based instruction, as well as data analysis, and then multi-tiered systems of support. Again, the reason why there are zeros in those columns is because the activities that are identified in the highlights are actually, the expenses are listed in action 1 under 1.2 and 1.3. So instead of trying to take this bulk of actions, which there's so much overlap, we decided just to kind of contain them in one place. We make note of that in the LCAP and then just have it live in both areas, because this is more about the training. And then the other action is more about, the what's being done rather than the how it's being done. And again, we try to make reference of that in the mid-year as well. Leadership capacity building. What are we doing in that area? That has everything to do with our TNTP work as they work with our site principals at the elementary and middle school level. They meet with us monthly. That has everything to do with our work with Dr. Shelley Holt and being an equity-minded leader. The classified training and support, a big shout out to our HR team that has really started this year, our first ever substitute training day. That was huge in the beginning of the year and very well received. We're continuing with our classified training opportunities as well. And we have compensated 39 TK teachers as well as classroom assistants to help them earn early childhood education units. Because teaching those babies is very, very different than a kindergarten classroom. And so that is certainly work that needs to be highlighted. Number 6, recruitment and retention of a diverse and highly qualified staff. Just want to let you know, yes, there is a difference between a $1 million budget and then what we have spent so far. There needs to be some reconciliation with regards to certain recruitment bonuses, possibly some expenses that we had not necessarily expended out of the budget that we originally planned for. We are certainly going to clean that up. And then as we take a look at how we onboard our teachers into our system, we do have an extra day for teachers that are hired to support our Title I schools. And part of that had to do with really ensuring or helping to ensure that they don't constantly end up being transferred year after year if there ends up being involuntary transfers. So we provide them extra professional development, an extra day. They come in the district early, and that's part of also action 6. LCAP goal 3, parents, family, community members will be informed, but most importantly, engaged and empowered as partners with MDUSD. Metrics around that is everything from chronic absenteeism, suspension rates, our California Healthy Kids survey. We took a look at that, as well as our ARIES system. And I'm very happy to see that in ARIES, in our information system, we have 82% of our families have a current email address connected to that. And that's really important because now all of our report cards are in ARIES, as well as, of course, the students' transcripts at the high school level. So parents can see what they've taken as well as their grades. The California Healthy Kids survey that is going to be updated information is going to be provided in the next couple of weeks. So as we write our new LCAP, we will have hot off the presses data. Chronic absenteeism, even though it looks super, super high, well, it is super high. Let's just be honest. It is high, but the good news is it is decreasing. We, of course, at 9.4% as our baseline here in 2019. If we take a look at 2023, we really do want to thank our families for keeping their young ones home when they are not feeling well. But at the same time, if they're kind of feeling well, we want to make sure that they're not missing a lot of schooling. So we're working with families in order to have them a little bit more thoughtful about whether or not that student really does need to be home, or maybe they're just a little tired. So that's chronic absenteeism. Within the goal of, let's see, the actions underneath goal 3, we've got district leadership and vision. That first line has things to do with professional development, CSBA membership, and then increasing and improving communication, all the branding that we've been doing, making sure that we are communicating with parents in a very thoughtful manner, the Friday letter, the parent square, social media posts, all of that. Those are all actions that we have taken on underneath action 2. Advisory committee, it says 0, but that's not the full story, because through all of that communication, we are constantly trying to encourage families in order to engage with our district. Also in goal 4, there's some specific actions around engaging our families. So again, these activities are incorporated into other actions. And then family education opportunities. Our parent conferences and the support and workshops they provide are just, top notch. They're provided in multiple languages, everything from family literacy to how do you support students that are really possibly struggling with some of their behavior. There's all sorts of a menu of different courses that our adult education and our parent education program provides. And then lastly, our goal 4, our focal scholars. We have our student groups identified. This was originally a required goal by the state of California because we have certain student groups that have been underserved. They are not meeting the California dashboard targets. Their growth is not one that we are happy with, and the state of California requires us to call that out. That being said, as we move into the future, it's not a requirement, but we are going to continue with this laser-like focus with student groups to make sure that they are being provided the supports that they deserve. Goal 4 metrics, there are really many of the metrics we already went through, but these are disaggregated by student groups. And as we're taking a look at this, there's a lot of different areas that we can certainly improve on. One area that's not being talked about actually on this slide, but the graduation rate for African-American students, I just want to throw it out there that we've had a 10% increase, which is, it's something that we're very proud of. However, as we take a look at some of these other data points, we have a lot of areas of growth. Our multilingual students are ones that across our dashboard, they are in need of some specialized targeted resources and instruction. And I know that is something that we've been having conversations about, not only with our principals, with our multilingual education department, but actually we have a team down at the counselor conference, actually, as we speak, and they're taking a look at our graduation data in order to put together some plans as they return to us to make sure our students increase in all of these different areas. Other metrics we look at, again, chronic absenteeism, I think I spoke about that. And our suspension rates, we continue to be disproportionate with our suspension rates, not significantly disproportionate. But as we take a look at different student groups, we do see that they are out of balance between our enrollment and then the percentage of students that are being suspended. And I just also, if folks want to know more about all of these data points, on January 17th, there was a deep and detailed board presentation done by Dr. Raymond Chenaloy on our California data dashboard, where all this information can be found. Underneath goal 4, with regards to actions, student outreach and support for African-American students, we've got a phenomenal SACE team, a crackerjack group of folks that are out everywhere supporting teachers, supporting principals, connecting with families, and hosting events such as our African-American Student Summit and our Black Excellence Awards. As we take a look at our outreach for foster youth and students experiencing homelessness, I really want to give a shout out to the Student Services team and Rosie Reed for all of her work in this area this year. We had hundreds of students actually come to Willow Creek during the month of December in order to engage with a lot of different resources and community-based organizations, focusing on our students, as we take a look at our students with disabilities, making sure that we provide very strong Tier 2 interventions, increased parent training opportunities and social events for students with disabilities and their families have been put into place. Our multilingual students, we just actually launched this year a program at Olympic to really support students that have had interrupted schooling. They're ones that come to us later in high school years. And then really what we want to do is kind of wrap our arms around them, provide them the support they need with a soft handoff to adult education, so then they can be provided support as they move forward. And attendance worker also has been really, really helpful in order to support our newcomer students and their families. Specialized supports for families also is underneath goal 4, offered a 12-week webinar for multilingual parents, Project to Inspire, as well as I mentioned the first ever Hope Holiday Fair, where it was standing room only at the Willow Creek Center. So as I mentioned, this was very brief. The annual update for the LCAP will be presented in June, along with the new 3-year LCAP. Before I share a little bit about that, we just wanted to list some of the highlights. Again, the 10% increase in graduation rate, increases in our CASP in mathematics for foster youth and student with disabilities, and 60% of our schools showed increases on the CASP and mathematics, which is actually connected to our work with TNTP, our classroom walkthroughs, and really building on the expertise of our instructional leadership team, which are teacher leads that are helping to support the work at the school sites. Challenges, disproportionate results for different student groups, especially our multilingual students, building in time and processes to monitor data on a regular basis. Time is certainly limited as we want to meet together in order to do that work. And I've always, filling vacancies. We want to start our school year with 100% staff on board, and sometimes that is a challenge. So next steps, as we move forward into the spring, in the month of March, we are working with a new platform in order to collect survey information for our new LCAP. We are wipe the slate clean. We are bringing back actions and strategies based on survey data from the community. We are really expanding our outreach to all of these groups, but of course, making sure that we have ample opportunity to engage with them with the surveys, but then also presenting our advisory groups a draft that they can review. And that needs to be done before March 31st. Just in closing, despite the challenges that we have, Mount Diablo Unified is committed to implementing the LCAP and to provide the necessary services for our children. I really want to acknowledge and sincerely thank the hard work and the dedication of our employees, the support of our families, and the resilience of our students as we continue to reach out for excellence. So that being said, I am available here if you have any questions.
I have a question for you, which you don't have to answer if you don't want, but the whole purpose of LCAP was the local control. But it seems like in the past few years, all the money is connected to a particular program, which kind of defeats local control. Is that a challenge for you when you're trying to do this plan?
I don't think it's so much of a challenge. I think there's other funding sources where it's been a lot more targeted, almost moving back to what we used to call categorical. When it comes to the local control funding formula, specifically the LCFF funding, it still comes in one resource, and then we divide it up in order to address the parameters of each of the programs. And the programs they want us to support is, of course, supports for multilingual students, foster youth, students experiencing homelessness, students that are struggling in their classes, and all of these things align with our values and what we want for our kids. So in some ways, it can be seen as kind of a move to categorical. But if you really take a look at the LCFF and the intention behind the funding, I think it's actually pretty aligned with what we know we need to do for kids. And we just need to be really strategic and thoughtful about how we build our LCAP to really show what we're doing for all students and what are we doing and really primarily directed to support students that have been historically underserved.
I just want to say thank you for this presentation. I think a lot of times when we refer to the LCAP or send parents or community members to the LCAP, it's a huge, long document that's very dense and difficult to find information. This is a great way to summarize for the public what we're measuring under each of our LCAP goals, what our progress has been. And I love the highlights and challenges section where you're really talking about your highlights and the challenges to let people know where we're at with these things. So I just want to thank you and all of the staff and Dr. Clark for your work on this. I think it's really incredible. There's so many things to be able to be proud of here and be able to share out more easily with our community. And so I have not really so much questions as much as just, appreciation, I think, for things like, the fact that we are piloting the dyslexia screeners and that's one of the things that's highlighted in here. I look forward to hearing how those are going. Really excited about the increase in the number of wellness centers and the community-based partnerships like Family Purpose and One Day at a Time. We received a packet a couple weeks ago at our last board meeting with counselor highlights from every single school, and just, you know, shout out to our counselors. It's amazing. It's so great to be able to see what is happening in our wellness centers and with our counselors at every school site, and to see that they are communicating with each other and sharing resources and sharing information across the district. That's just huge and wonderful for us to be able to see. The science of reading training was really great to be highlighted in here. And that's something that I look forward to seeing progress on as well. You know, how many of our teachers are accessing that training. Do all of our school sites have the full materials needed to fully implement it? And I think those were the main things. So anyway, and I appreciate also that you're talking about next steps here and how the community can get involved in any kind of changes or things that they want to make sure that we highlight in our upcoming LCAP. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sachs. Okay. And then, so we move on to our facilities update.
Yep, so we have Adrian Vargas, we have Melanie Kozlo, and we have Robert Sipford, who are going to present our a facilities update, bonds and construction.
All right, thank you, Dr. Clark. So as Dr. Clark said, I have Melanie and Robert here tonight. This is another part of our update on the facilities and more specifically to Measure J. So they're going to talk about a couple items that are on the consent agenda. So those are items 14.20, which is the furniture purchase, and then 14.25, which is the technology purchases. So with that, I'm going to bring up Robert.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. All right, so I just have a couple of slides here before I pass it over to Melanie. Basically, you have seen this slide before. This is, and I'll just briefly recap this. We have divided our school sites into two tracks. Track one are sites that are more complicated and require a full design to make sure that we're doing the right thing and getting those sites what they need. Track two is the sites that are the sites that I really wanted to talk to you tonight about and that we're excited about because we feel confident that we can do a lot of this work internally, manage these projects internally, and really get moving more quickly. So these are typically elementary schools. And we're excited to bring that to you today. Back to the very top of that slide, our proof of concept site. Really excited about this one, Silverwood, and I wanted to share with you that we are ready to go. So very exciting for us, and I really do want to call out the collaboration led by Adrian and Melanie around working together to really get this stuff planned. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that goes on just to get to this point, and that will only increase with as we get into these projects as well. But we are ready to go on Silverwood. So I'm really excited to share with you this. Basically, where you see those bold names there, those are vendor partners that we are working with. I always like to think of them as partners. We develop relationships with these vendors to make sure that they're doing the kinds of work that we want them to be doing. We trust them. We're very careful to watch what they're doing, and we couldn't do this without them. So basically, three categories, and I'll go into just a teeny little bit of detail on some of these, mainly because I'm kind of excited about it myself. Okay, so the first one, network backbone, and we should be adding. I should have actually added the company EKC to that list as well. This is our fiber optic and Ethernet cabling, all the stuff that's behind the walls, behind the channeling that makes stuff work, and so that is. that is something that we know is not reliable in our district, that has caused us many problems. And so this is a full refresh of that network backbone. We are including secure MDF and IDF cabinets. That's the main distribution frame, intermediate distribution frame. Basically, when you see cabinets with switches in it on the walls, that's what we're talking about there. We're securing those, making them more reliable. If you've been to schools where you've seen kind of those plates of spaghetti of different colors hanging out of cabinets, we're fixing that. We're securing those, so that'll be those will be in much better shape. We are also installing dedicated electrical circuits for a teacher who may want a slice of toast at some point and trips a circuit that sometimes brings down our network in certain areas. And so we want to make sure that there are dedicated circuits for our IDFs to make sure that that doesn't happen. And those sorts of things happen. They're always going to happen, but putting these on dedicated circuits is important. That is one item that is not actually on the consent agenda today. We're not quite ready with that. We'll probably have that ready for the next meeting, and that'll be on consent there. Internal and external wireless access points. We feel it's important to include external areas in this. At the moment, we basically have certain external areas outside of our buildings that have it sort of bleeds through, but we want to make sure that those areas are able to be used as learning spaces where technology will be Wi-Fi connected in those areas. So this includes that as well. Okay, moving on to telephones. This is also pretty exciting. We know we have a very aged telephone network. We have an old PBX system that is dated is probably the best word to use. It's really something that's not sustainable into the future. VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol, is the way we're moving. We're moving to a cloud VoIP system. We're in the process of actually selecting a vendor right now. They're all very similar in many ways, so we're just going through our due diligence to make sure we're selecting a good, sustainable vendor there. We do have handsets, new handsets, so those will be VoIP-capable handsets, and then we also have what we call soft phones. Soft phones are basically the client that sits on the computer or on your own phone that can actually be used as a district phone. So we're pretty excited to be able to offer those services as well, video conferencing, all those kind of things as well. Notification system and audiovisual. This one, we've worked very closely with the M&O department and Melanie on this. We will have networked clocks, bells, and speakers with digital displays. That'll be pretty exciting to have, and those will all be integrated in a unified communications system that allows us to be able to control, us and M&O, of course, able to control those systems centrally and make sure that our sites have the ability to use those communication tools as well within their sites for safety reasons, for just general paging and all those sorts of things as well. Emergency notification, of course, all those sorts of things. And finally, and this is also pretty exciting and very, very visible in our schools. This is modern audiovisual systems for our multi-purpose rooms. So basically, we're establishing a standard for our elementaries, our middle schools, and our high schools that will be, will basically go in and make sure that they're up to that standard. So different schools will be getting different amounts of stuff, of new equipment, but it will bring them all to that same standard, because we know that schools have done some of this work themselves depending on their resources. And I guess that's probably all I have. I don't want to take too much time. I'll pass it over to Melanie.
Before you go, can I just say a few things? Thank you. I think this is pretty awesome to be able to see, and I appreciate that that you're doing this at a single school to kind of work it out and have a solid model before expanding. I think that's really great. The networked clocks, bells, and speakers is something that I think many people will be very happy about. You know, our clocks are famous for being a very old system that's very hard to control and keep them all at the right time, especially with power outages. So I noticed your battery backup plan up there as well with the electrical circuits. So there's a lot to be excited about here. And lastly, just appreciate you mentioning that you are going to work with the AV systems that are already existing in multipurpose rooms here and there. That's something that we've definitely heard about from school sites is, wait, don't just like buy all brand new stuff and, throw out what we have. Let's work with the pieces that we have and not waste funds. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that like the conversations that Robert and I have like on the phone or in person, like we're just sort of like two nerds that get really, really excited about like the 21st century learning environments that we're being able to bring to our classrooms. So just sort of carrying on with consent agenda item, we do have our phase 1 elementary modernization furniture package for Meadow Homes, Mount Diablo Elementary and Riverview, working with Rio Vista Elementary, working with Meteor Education. We are putting together packages that follow our educational spec, which is creating 21st century furniture for a 21st century learning environment. Just a couple little quick sort of history lessons in our educational specifications. We have verbiage around all students can learn, unique vision, focusing on students and teaching staff growing and learning together. We have language about creating a student environment where the student gets to choose their seating option as well as their learning environment. That we have at the elementary level an ability to allow constant movement, engagement in small group work, but also larger group work, to be collaborative and also when appropriate to be messy. We also have language for our teachers regarding, adapting to the student and the student needs. Facilitate learning versus lecturing, so creating those environments, and also to teach in multiple areas. It's not just I'm at the front, and this is how we learn. It's that your classroom should be able to be a constant movable surface, so that we can use the technology that we're putting in the classroom, both teacher and student. So one of the things that we wanted to go through just quickly is just give some visuals on our typical classrooms, right? Every classroom is going to be a little bit different. I want to just acknowledge that through other funding, furniture for our TK classrooms were purchased within this last year. And so while the classrooms that are dedicated for TK at these elementary schools will be getting the storage options, potentially the teacher workstations, we are going along with the furniture that was just purchased in those classrooms. Their color options work with our color options. We've been very collaborative working with Margie Kalbeck from Ed Services to make sure that we're all integrated in that. So looking at our kindergarten classroom, and I just wanted to be able to go back to the ed spec as well. A student should be able to choose their, I don't want to redo. We are looking at creating spaces with flexible furniture, so for individual learning, but also collaborative learning. So all of the furniture in our kinder space is movable, but it's movable in a safe way. We have 2 casters and then solid feet on the other end where, older students may be able to move the furniture on their own, but really that it's at the ease of the teaching staff, any classroom aide, custodial, that sort of thing. So this is just a depiction of what student learning could look like in the kindergarten classroom, as well as some options for our storage. We want to be able to create and follow our ed specs for tidy, accessible storage for teacher supplies, but also student supplies. So you'll see in the photo some lockable doored storage, but also some open storage. And then the little green depictions are movable storage. And so we want to engage with our teaching staff is that the bins from their storage are able to be moved to their movable storage centers. So if it is, fall and I'm teaching a particular type of learning, I can have it right there readily available. At our lower grades, we will have that more locked up and safe for the students. But it's just a depiction of what our kindergarten looks like. Moving on to first grade, sort of very similar, right? We have storage containers, movable furniture reading nooks, and all of it depicts that the classroom can constantly be moving. Our educational specifications for a standard classroom, again, flexible furniture, areas where students can nest, where we can bring the student to the teacher for that small group learning environment. And then, go right back to using the technology in the classroom. So the teacher can be teaching from wherever within the classroom to provide that environment for the student. And then this is just an option for our third grade. So once we get to third, fourth, and fifth grade, the furniture is a little bit larger, but all with that same idea of movement for the students. Just being able to give a little close-up of our storage options. So we will have open storage as well as lockable storage. This is a closer photo of the movable or the mobile storage. And so we'll have multiple of those in each classroom. And then just a little picture of our sort of color options that go along with the design for the construction. But basically it's to ease a quick movement of having that classroom curriculum, seasonal work, all of that readily available to our teaching staff. Student seating, right? I talked about our educational specification. Not every student works well in a standard chair. Not every student works well in a bouncy ball. We are going to have multiple options for student seating. So there'll be a variety of what works best, and it's all going to be interchangeable. So while we have in our consent items listed out, by site, by classroom, it all will be able to be interchangeable. We also have, phase 2 coming a little bit later. And so we can make some, additional choices there. So variety of seating that allows movement, those little fidget spinners and all of that, having a chair that sort of rocks and moves will help the student's brain stay engaged. The ability to move around. Chairs become a learning tool to teach the students how to advocate for their needs, basically saying, this chair doesn't work for me today. I might need a wiggle stool. And so we just switch it out for the student.
Can I just ask, when you say it's interchangeable, if a teacher already has a lot of wobble stools because they did donors choose or however,
sure,
will they receive the same things? Does every classroom receive a cookie cutter amount, or how does
so every classroom within these 3 elementary programs will receive all new furniture with the exception of TK. However, we will be recovering what is on the site and sharing with other campuses that may not have those options. I don't have all the details worked out because that may be hard for staff who received it on their own personal donor's choice or donor's choose. But our goal is to create a brand new environment at these 3 campuses. And so we're hoping that we can ease that transition. And then cookie cutter to the point that we are purchasing enough furniture for the fully loaded classroom, but potentially I need 20 of the movable chairs and only, 10 of the wobbles, but my neighbor might need something different. And because from grade level to grade level, or even like the smaller grades to the larger grades, the furniture size, is like similar, we can just do movement within the site. So it doesn't have to be that like I have 15 and 15. It could be I have 8 and however many. Student desks. So the student desks are similar from grade to grade. There was some decision or some options that we spoke about. TK does not have individual drawer, and kindergarten typically is more of that table style learning. And so at the lower grade, we won't have an individual drawer, but in the slide here where the green drawer is, anything first grade and up will have a drawer large enough for the student to have their space, their storage separate from our teaching staff. The furniture is all again able to be moved in different configurations. I'm not going to be I don't want to comment on like one particular situation or not, but we see, a lot of classrooms very bulked down in furniture because every student has a desk. We have our reading center. We have our big horseshoe table for those small movements. I do believe, especially in our classrooms that maybe aren't quite as large, having that movable furniture where it's like, I need you 4 students to come to me. We just come with our own desk, and now we've created that horseshoe learning environment where the teacher can be front and center. Sorry. So that's sort of it on the furniture. Moving forward, just as far as like project recap, right? So the Silverwood project that Robert shared, we're looking at a spring and summer construction. We are working very closely with Ed Services. We know that Silverwood has summer program. And so part of what we're doing is making sure that we're scheduling outside of our learning environment with the intention of hopefully being done ahead of the fall. Elementary modernization, phase 1 project advertisement will take place in spring. That actually is sort of like happening right now. And then construction phase 1 is for summer. Project advertising and bidding will be over fall and winter with that second phase and the big exciting, ground or reopening in fall of 25. And then middle school Valley View Kitchen. We visited Valley View with our bond oversight committee last Thursday. We still have some stuff to do. We've learned a lot. We've struggled a little bit with timelines, extremely long timelines of delivery of owner, meaning district provided equipment. And also the contractor has had a bit of delay. And so we're just working together to get that kitchen open as soon as possible. And then we'll be doing a similar project at El Dorado this fall. So other than that, we're here for any other questions.
So in the elementaries or at the school sites that we are modernizing, it will be what do I want to say? Wall-to-wall tear out. Some of the schools have existing cabinets in them and other paraphernalia that's attached to the walls, etc. Will each room be completely emptied so that the new furniture can be included?
So that's actually a really good question. The simple answer is the existing or the original portion of the campus will have both storage and student furniture removed in order to have the new ceilings, the new lighting, the new technology, the new paint, new cabinets and desks. For those of us who know the prototypical classroom. So that's a classroom that was built sometime within the last 20 years. Typically, they have those metal seam roofs. They already have dual pane windows and all of that. The cabinets are in really, really, really good condition. And so in those classrooms, they'll have a little less construction. So the existing cabinetry will remain. But again, all the other things will take place and all the new furniture will be added. So I guess in those prototypicals, there is what we would determine to be enough storage, but we're looking at those one by one. Again, there's some contingency dollars. They'll still have some of the mobile furniture or mobile storage options, but we're not going to rip out nice, newer storage. We're looking at those old original 1950, 60 style cabinets.
Okay. And then, so I'm excited.
I'm excited.
I know it will be challenging to give up some of the storage that you have currently because you always doubt whether you're going to have enough storage with the new equipment.
Yeah.
And that would cause anxiety if I had to tear out my kitchen and had to redo it because I've lived in it and I know where every inch of space is. The other thing that's always been a pet peeve for me is student size and desk height and chair height. Will we have enough flexibility to provide equipment? And I think you're saying that already for those adjustments, because sometimes you'll have a 4th grader that is very petite, or you'll have a 5th grader that is an 8th grader size. And it breaks my heart when I walk in a classroom and see students that aren't fitted to a chair or a desk appropriately, because they deserve that.
Yeah, I think that goes, very well that we could have, a kinder or a first grader that, maybe is third grade size. My grandson is very tall for his age. And so we have made accommodation for that. Obviously, in order to keep the price down, we didn't do height adjustable on every single piece of furniture. And I should remember this number, but each site is getting an appropriate number of height adjustable in all sizes so that we have enough furniture. If we don't need it, it just stays at the standard size. But when we have a teacher or a student that needs that, we have the option to go up or down. So we have planned for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because the furniture should also look the same so the student isn't singled out. And that will be very important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think just to touch on your question or your comment of, it's hard to let go. We are making, we do realize that I have information and FAQs out to the 3 schools. I also have an open questions page that I'm answering sort of as we're going, and then notifying the school site like, oh, I've added more answers. I need to remember to look again today. And so we know that there's effects of this. Like, even though I am so excited, like I hope that everybody returns to their classroom and they're just as excited as Robert and I are to be able to provide this. But we also know they have created their classroom. They have created what they want to offer their student. And so this is going to be difficult. And so just acknowledging that we realize that our Medea staff members, could have a hard time, even though I'm coming in very excited. And so Dr. Rubio has set up some time with our Medea partners in order to discuss and negotiate the effects of the construction. And so that's coming soon.
Is there a plan for, this is pie in the sky, for an early adapter teacher that's really excited about all this, to build out their classroom and then showcase that classroom to other teachers as you're moving through the sites?
So there is a part of education, just like with our Promethean board rollout, there is a part of education. There's a meeting next week where we're going to have that initial conversation about how do we get into the school sites without causing disruption ahead of construction, acknowledging the sites or the staff members that will be first sort of affected by this. How do we return when things are being displayed? And those will be things that I discuss with the Medea folks next week as well, how we best initiate that, because it's sort of like, yes, we need those early learners, but we've also sort of identified what classrooms are phase 1 and phase 2. So hopefully we have really excited staff in that phase 1 that can show off their classrooms.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just thought of a question. Within the proposal for each of the schools, there's different numbers of classrooms, like Rio Vista just includes 2 classrooms, but then other general spaces versus Meadow Homes being 13 classrooms. So does that mean when this is complete, that it's not that every classroom in that school site will have this?
It depends on the schedule of construction. Rio Vista has much less standard classrooms happening during phase 1 because we are taking on creating a more usable admin space, all of the programs that we have there in order to create enough TK and kindergarten classrooms. We're moving their library. We're working on their special education classrooms. And so all of that sort of sits different. Whereas with Meadow Homes and Mount Diablo Elementary, we're taking on huge chunks of their prototypical classroom so we can do more in the shorter period. And it just had to do with how the phasing works in order to move staff as little as possible. And so we will see in phase 2 a whole heck of a lot more of standard classroom furniture because we're dealing with the special education program and some of the other spaces in phase 1 there.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. All right, thank you so much.
All right, so with that, we move to board member reports. I think that last time, I think we started on this side, so I'm wondering, Trustee Mason, do you have a report this evening?
A brief one. I went to the, I think I have a report. Yeah, I went to the PAC meeting last night. I went to the DLEC meeting. At the PAC meeting, they had a presentation about all of our career pathway programs. And I'm always so proud to see that we're offering so many different options for our kids, whether it be IB or career pathways or college now. I think that's a real plus for the district, really growth. I also went to the DLAC meeting where they had a presentation about our expanded learning programs. Again, it's very nice to see those programs, no pun intended, expanding from where they started. We started with like, I think 6 schools and then went to 11 and now it's a very big program. And I guess I'd be remiss if I don't share that one of the reasons I really like going to the PAC meetings is because I like to just sit and listen to the parents and what is on their mind. And I have to say, and it won't be popular, but I have to say that a couple meetings ago, they were very, very unhappy with a week off in October combined with 2 weeks of conferences. And were very verbal about, they thought that was way too much time and the kids weren't getting a full day of education. So I'm thinking that's part of where looking at changing the 2 weeks of conferences coming from. And as one of the speakers acknowledged tonight, I worked in the schools for 22 years, and it was very common for the teachers to get all their conferences done in the 1 week. So the other week they didn't have, could kind of kick back and relax. So there's pluses and minuses to all things, but I'm always pretty sensitive to what our parents are requesting.
Trustee Mayo?
Thank you. I had the opportunity to attend a elementary school student performance. It was at Strandwood Elementary School, and they've brought back or created a Snow Queen performance. They presented 3 performances on a Saturday. Each of the performances included grade levels, first or even kinder through 5th grade, and different performers that had the major roles for each of the 3 sessions. So everybody in the school that wanted to could be involved in the performance. It was excellent. It was fun. The costumes that they've created and purchased are amazing. They can be used from year to year. It was free to the families whose students were involved for each session. The PTA has funded this through, fundraising, etc. But it was important. I think the most important thing is the family engagement, the pride, and the ability of the students to be in front of an audience, whether it was just a speaking role or a dancing role. And then they also had students that were working as the theater folks. So it was great. We had the Measure J meeting, which included a tour of the Valley View kitchen. And yes, it's almost completed. And as Ms. Kozlov said, the equipment that was ordered a long time ago is still arriving slowly. What was interesting, the serving lines that we all see in the kitchen area where the students pick up their food, the new serving line arrived on 14 pallets and had to be assembled. So when you think about the magnitude of that work and assembling the hot plate, the hot water service areas and the cold service areas, it is a science to put all of that equipment together. I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's finished. And the walk-in freezer and the walk-in refrigerator are amazing. They have windows on them this time, so nobody can get locked in there accidentally, or at least you could see. I'm sorry, my grandfather had a walk-in, and so that was the favorite thing, was to lock cousins up in this walk-in for a short period of time. You know, peaches were stored in there, or fruit that had been picked for the day. The PAC meeting, yes, it was exciting. What was also emphasized and our parents were unaware of are the internship opportunities that Mount Diablo coordinates with businesses and our own school district for our youth, and the number of college credits that students can earn while they are participating in our different programs. Some of the parents also were eager to know why we can't offer all of the programs at every school site, but that would be a real challenge for us, both from providing the staff as well as the instructional environments for the students. So it was a positive meeting in that folks got to see the variety that students can choose from, and they as parents. And of course, we did, the district provided the 8th grade experience for career technical education at Riverview. And that exposure needs to happen not only for students, but also for parents in the middle school level, because we're a mobile community now for the most part, and parents might want to choose where for their student to attend where their child has an interest. And for some of our programs today, my children would have made different choices in the high schools that they attended if those programs were offered when they went to high school. I went to, let's see, so I've talked about all of those. What I want to talk about again is the Contra Costa County Science and Engineering Fair for grades 7 through 12 is happening on March 8th. I'm still recruiting judges and or volunteers for Thursday night to help with setup, and then judges to judge all day on Friday. I would also like to, and you can type in your search bar, Contra Costa County Science and Engineering Fair, and it'll pop up, and you can, or just reach out to me and I'll be glad to connect you with the sign up form. For judges, we start at 7 in the morning and you finish about 3 in the afternoon. We feed you 2 meals. And we pamper you, but the exciting thing for judges is they get to talk with one another about science, and they also get to see the potential of our youth and their creativity and their knowledge about science. So it's an amazing day. On Saturday, March 9th is the awards ceremony. It begins at 9 a.m. and it goes, the ceremony itself goes to 11. This all happens at Los Medanos College, and the public is welcome to attend the award assembly in the gym. And then the project are open for viewing by the public between 11 and 12, again in the gym at Los Medanos College. By 12 o'clock, the room is empty. So if you want to see the projects, be there promptly, either at 9 or at 11. Thank you.
Trustee Nsawi.
I'll be super short. I just want to share that yesterday at College Park, I helped to host a soul food luncheon for the Black Student Union in honor of Black History Month. But I just want to, mostly because I love the history of soul food and learning and understand how these dishes came to be. And so I made them listen to me for a few minutes on like the history of soul food. But it was, I did this as a parent, not as a school board member. So this may be irrelevant to this school board report, but I did it as a parent because it's important, and it's important for our students to have a sense of belonging and affirmation of who they are and where they come from and where they're going. But I really just want to thank the families who donated money to be able to afford a catered lunch, because we realized like at the end of January, there's nobody knows how to cook for 30 to 40 people. So I'm like, I could make greens or something, but I don't know how to. If you've ever had the opportunity of visiting the African American Museum of History and Culture in Washington, D.C., they have a big, ginormous old pot that presumably was used for greens or beans or something. I don't have one of those, nor a stove that could fit it. So we got it, we bought the food, but because of generous families of BSU students and generous friends of families of BSU students, we were able to raise the money to be able to feed and appreciate the food yesterday. And I appreciated Dr. Clark attending with a very late invitation, and other administrators on campus. So it was a good way to celebrate Black History Month.
Trustee Count?
All right, thank you. I was out of the country for all of last week, so I unfortunately missed the DLAC meeting and the bond oversight meeting, so my apologies there. Thank you for your reports. I was able to catch the 8th grade career fair at Riverview before I left, and really appreciate it. I think, like Trustee Mayo said, that students are beginning to now learn more about what is available what the various choices are at each of our high schools and what they specialize in. And definitely was thinking that it would be better or something to consider is to hold it either earlier in the year for 8th graders before the November deadline for them to submit their transfers, or hold it for 7th graders or allow 7th graders to attend, so that families will be able to make those decisions. Because there are a lot of really great options. I know for myself, one of my kids did not attend their homeschool because they transferred to a school for a program. So definitely would like other people to be able to make those kinds of decisions. And lastly, I just want to share, I'm hosting a coffee event over in my trustee area on Friday, March 1st at 9 a.m. And it's with Dr. Allison Mayo, who's a founder of an organization called Behavioral Fitness. And it's just going to be a free coffee event where she's going to talk about essential tools for parents and kids to connect. And she's going to give us all tools to improve connection, understanding, and communication with your child. And she's an incredible member of our community who I've personally learned a lot from, and I'm really excited that she's offering this for free to anyone who wants to attend. And that's all. Thanks.
Mine's gonna be very short too. Trustee Town actually got me in contact with Dr. Mayo, and she is literally the kindest person I ever met in my life. She is so kind, and she has so many great opportunities, not only for like parents, but she also offered a great opportunity for student advisory committee. She's gonna get us like connections with some of her like some of people she knows that like kind of connect with some of the student advisory committee students, because some are interested in like engineering and computing, and she knows a bunch of people that she's going to introduce us to. Also at school, I was able to visit a bunch of sporting events, especially the boys basketball, which you guys need to come watch because they are so good. I was cheering and I almost lost my voice because they're so good. Also, I took my Spanish IA, our oral exam. Our school finally finished it, and it was probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, but I made it. And I'm also really grateful for the Promethean boards because they create they're so useful, but it's also the highlight of my life, not my life, my day, when I see my teachers not being able to use it properly because it's so funny. So shout out to especially that one teacher. They probably know who they are, which makes the whole class laugh when they're tapping the board on freeze mode and it doesn't do anything. So
All right, it's always hard to follow you, Trustee Barrios. Just appreciate you so much. Trustee Mason, Trustee Mayo went to some of the meetings that I went to, and you were both very detail oriented, so I don't have anything additional to share about those meetings. But I will share that I was able to make it to the African American Parent Advisory Committee meeting on February 8th, and Ms. Erica, who is she runs the College and Career Center over at Mount Diablo High School, and she gave an excellent report on really just preparing for college, meeting A through G requirements, applying for scholarships, kind of things of that nature. And so that was a really great meeting to attend, and interesting to see. And it was really nice to see kind of that level of support that's provided to our students through our college and career centers. And then I, on a Friday night, probably the highlight of my 4-day weekend, other than it being a 4-day weekend, was going to Mount Diablo High School to see the girls basketball team in the quarterfinals, victorious against our international high school. And it's just it always feels really good to be at Mount Diablo High School. It's such a positive place. And it was glad to see kind of so many people in the stands cheering on our team, and a coach from another team, and just some folks there just really cheering on our students, and seeing them do so well as a team. And that's, I think, all I have to share this evening.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
Just a shout out because I'm missing it. Pleasant Hill Choir showcases right now. So I'm missing my daughter. But congratulations to all singers, elementary through high school, singing right now, creating beautiful music.
That was an excellent addition. Thank you. All right, Dr. Clark.
All right, I have a brief presentation tonight. Let's see what we have here. So here goes our 4 LCAP goals, and I think it's real important to know that we've been working extremely hard over the last several years to meet these goals. Goal number 1 really focuses on our students. Goal number 2 really focuses on staff. Goal number 3 focuses on parents, and then that goal 4 really focuses on those students with, who we've highlighted as being our, as being underserved students within our district, and not having the success that we would like to see. So we're putting extra effort into serving those students. When we look at goal 3 and we talk about parents, family, and community, one of the great things about being superintendent is that first and foremost, I'm here to serve students. Next, I'm here to serve our parents. Next is all staff, and then fourth is the community. So really, you break that up into 4 equal parts. And so as we're looking at, for example, the parent conferences, it was very clear from parents that being out of school or having to make adjustments for 3 weeks was going to be extremely difficult. So we do what adults do, is we try to come up with solutions so that we can meet the needs of our students and meet the needs of the most people possible. Currently, right now, we have about 5 demands to bargain from Medea, and so we're working through that process, and we'll work through the process of parent conferences, but with the lens of what's best for our students, what's best for our parents, what's best for staff, and what's best for the community. Because believe it or not, when we adjust our pickup and delivery time at schools, it does impact the community in ways that some of us may not understand. So it's so nice to be superintendent and be able to work on all these different issues. It's almost like a big puzzle that you have to put together, and knowing that there's going to be people who are happy, and there's going to be other people who aren't so happy, and so you just have to work through those processes. And then the last thing I wanted to say about the LCAP is we are in the process of getting new input around our LCAP, and these goals may have to shift, right? Because of the great work that we've been doing. We still have room to grow, as always, but we have made all sorts of achievements and accomplishments in implementing our LCAP over the last couple of years. And our work with CCE will continue on as our dashboard results came out. And so we will continue that work, and we may have to adjust our triangle, but we really do like it and don't want to necessarily have to recreate a whole nother art piece, but we will if we need to. February has just been a lot of things going on, and I kind of said at the beginning of the meeting when we were doing the resolutions that I'm so appreciative of this board that you do kind of look at that big puzzle like what I was talking about. We have so many different people in our community. We have so many efforts that are being made, out in the world. We have so many people who have contributed to to our country, to our communities and stuff. And I think we do a really good job at recognizing them and highlighting those efforts. And sometimes it's just a small gesture, but I think gestures are important. So throughout February, we've been celebrating Black History Month. There was Frederick Douglass Day a couple days ago. There is our Day of Remembrance for the incarceration of Japanese Americans after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. There was also Susan B. Anthony Day, which, again, we did a resolution around women's history, and Susan B. Anthony was a strong proponent for women having the rights to vote and have the same rights as men. And we sort of take that for granted nowadays, but there's still work to be done in elevating stories of women and making sure that our young female students have examples to look up to, and our male students can also look at our women leaders and women in history as things to value as well. And then, of course, our Parent Teachers Association Founders Day also took place this month. So a lot going on in February, and of course, we can't do a resolution for everything, but I think we do a good job at hitting many of those things. I also just want to congratulate many of our MDUSD athletic teams that are out there. I don't dare name any specific teams or anything like that because it's young people participating in something that connects them more to school. And so I really like the bolded and underlined word with pursuing victory with honor. And that's the expectation that I have with all of our athletic competitions, is that we work hard, we compete hard, but we do it with honor. When people come to our schools, they are our guests. We should treat them respectfully, and that's what my expectation is. Unfortunately, we fall short of that sometimes, but that just means that we have work to do. So anyway, we have lots of teams and lots of young people that are competing in winter sports, and we have spring sports that are starting up. This is an ad we've been running for the last several weeks. The deadline is passed now, so if you haven't applied, it's too late. But I do just want to highlight, the College Now program at DVC. I know this board gets the opportunity, just as myself, to go to the end of the year graduation of these students, and just to see the students and the families and their teachers and administrators, just how they've really formed this tight-knit community as they go through high school, but on a college campus, and on a community college campus. And I just think it's a great program that we offer. I wanted to just kind of go back to this because we went to this the night after our last board meeting, and this was a event over at Diablo Valley College, and it was United Latino Voices, DVC, the Mount Diablo Unified School District, and the Contra Costa Community College District, all coming together in ways to support our Latino students, have access to higher ed, and to have access to opportunities that our local community college offers. And just a very emotional night, very moving night, and made me extremely proud of the work that we're doing here in Mount Diablo, and the work that's taking place in our community. And this picture here, I'm not going to go into it, but it's a very, very special picture. And just if you want to talk to me in private about why this picture is so special, I'd be happy to share it with you. This was just some of the highlights of the evening. That community college in California is free for 2 years, so that's something that our students need to understand. DVC accepts everyone who applies. So there's something for everybody at DVC. The Puente program is a program that is targets our Latino students, and it helps them transfer from DVC to four-year colleges and universities. Upward Bound, which which really supports low-income first-generation students, and then also DVC has the DVC Dreamers Alliance and Student Dreamers Club to provide support for undocumented students, and all those students above are all beneficiaries of one or more of those programs, and just very inspiring stories. So we want to continue this work. We want to continue this partnership with them. At the PAC meeting last night, we were also sharing information around our dual enrollment programs. This is something that I want to see grow within our district. I want to have more of our students who are participating in dual enrollment. I mean, DVC is literally right down the street. Now, we also have, we have Los Medanos, we have Contra Costa, we have Laney College, we have lots of community colleges in our area, but to have DVC right down the street, every high school student should be taking a class or several classes there. And these are some of the programs that we have that have the direct pathway into DVC, whether it's instructors coming over to our sites and teaching, or whether it's our students going over there. Those are all things that I see going forward in public education, that we really need to take advantage of the relationship with our community colleges more often. At the state level, we're really working on creating policy and efforts to make this transition a bit more smooth, because the community colleges, they all have separate boards and separate rules and things like that. And we're trying, and so, like, we can be in a district and you can have two community colleges in the district and they both have different rules around dual enrollment. So we're really trying to solidify that and try to come up with some ways that we can just provide better access to our students. So just great programs that we offer here. And we do have the high school articulation agreements. Again, this was shared. There's summer career academies, and we just have a plethora of opportunities for our students. And so just over the next, couple years or whatnot, I want to just really see this expand and see more of our students taking advantage of the opportunities that are over at DVC. Trustee Nzewi stole my thunder, but I was gonna. That's all right. You're a proud mom, so I appreciate that. But I did just want to highlight they do a really good job with choir over at College Park, and he's being the choir teachers being inclusive of the of the elementary schools and middle schools, and so they're doing a big concert over there this evening, which we all can attend because we're here. So that's how it goes. But I did want to bring attention to this. And just as in athletics, our performing arts and programs such as those are ways that connect our kids to school, to social environments, to working with adults. Just it has so many benefits. And so anyway, just want to highlight these at every opportunity we get, and wish I could be there. Wish it was starting at 9 o'clock or something, but not quite able to do that. Our graduation schedule has been finalized. You all will be receiving invitations, so you don't have to write this down or screenshot it or anything. But this is the culmination of our product, right? Our product is that we produce young people that are college and career ready. And so at these graduations, they're all extremely different and unique, but the joy and excitement and sense of accomplishment is all just similar. Like, you've been to one graduation, right? You've been to them all, because you're going to see the same things. You're going to see speeches. You're going to see excited young people. You're going to see proud families, and that's what it's all about. So I really look forward to this time. I know it may seem like it's a ways out, but it's going to be here in a blink of an eye. Our bridge program, Northgate, College Park, Concord, Horizons Prospects, Glenbrook, Crossroads, and then the Olympic graduation, Mount Diablo, and Ignacio Valley. And I didn't put the adult school on there, but I will add adult school to our mix. Their graduation's a little different, but still needs to be acknowledged. So so just with that said, just want to continue doing this very exciting work. Just super excited about moving into spring. As I was sharing with President McFerrin the other day, that we're kind of in this transition period of dark and gloomy and rain, and spring is just around the corner. Everything's starting to get really green, and springtime at a school site or in a district just really brings that excitement and that sort of spark of just new things to come. And I'm super excited for those things to come about in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. So want to thank this board for your leadership. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the 29,000 students in our district and the 3,000 employees. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. So that moves us to the consent agenda. We have some public comment? Ray Suburban. You'll wait? Okay.
What item would you like to speak on, ma'am?
I think she's also another comment in from that. You can withdraw that comment.
Okay. You have another card in? Okay. Thank you. You've been waiting so patiently. We want to make sure you get an opportunity to speak. It's all right. We're moving on. Yeah.
All right. Are there any requests to pull any of the items from the consent agenda? And if not, we can take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
That's a motion from Trustee Mason and a second from Trustee Nzewi. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. And so we move to 17 business action items, starting with 17. 17.2. Sorry, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, 17.2. Should we hear from Mr. Vargas first and then take public comment?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So actually, I have our Director of Food and Nutrition Services here tonight, Alex Emmett, and she's going to talk about the process related to this particular item. So.
Good evening again. So you have in front of you the proposal that the committee put together. And so I did just want to offer that I'm available to answer any questions that you may have, but I'm not going to overview the whole proposal just in the interest of time here. Bottom line, what I want to say is that the landscape of school meals has really changed since 2020. So both with the pandemic and then with the introduction of California Universal Meals, both the number of students that we serve every day and then also where we serve them has really shifted. And so we need to make changes to our labor force to reflect those changes essentially. and we need to do this not only so that we can continue all the great work that we've done in this department to date, but also so that we can really reach our visions, so that we can increase scratch cooking in the district, so we can increase the local sustainable procurement that we all really want to do. For me as a new director here too, the way that we're doing our labor budget isn't really working very well. We're spending too heavily on extra time. And so we need to standardize our labor hours at a reasonable rate, something that's sustainable, both so that we can accurately budget, right, as we go into budget season, but also, this is the right thing to do for our employees, right? And they deserve this. They deserve to accrue benefits accurately. They deserve to have their FTE reflected in the number of hours that they're actually working. I think that too often, food service employees just aren't acknowledged enough for their tremendous contribution to education. And thank you, Dr. Clark. I hear you acknowledge our employees all the time and really appreciate that. But these people are the people who nourish our students for success, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And honestly, listening to some of the other presentations this evening, our employees can sometimes be the reason that a student wants to come to school, right? So I think this proposal really does right by our employees. I think it's good for students. I think it's good for our staff. I think it's good for our food service program. So I urge you to approve it. Thank you. Questions or anything that I can answer? No. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that, that additional narrative, in addition to the materials provided. Okay, so Mark Jones.
Good evening, Dr. Clark and board members. Good to see you all again. Tonight, I'm here asking for your support and approval of the recommendation provided by the Food Service FTE Committee. As part of a bargained agreement, Teamster members in the Food Service Department, Management, and HR formed a committee to review and address longstanding inequities in the Food Service Department as it relates to their FTE, and also to bring forth a recommendation to the board. That's what you're seeing tonight. After 6 meetings, we have done that, and I'm happy to say that we have done it working in complete collaboration, where ideas from all perspectives were discussed and recognized. I'd like to thank Alex and our management staff, Kim Viana, and our Teamster members of the committee for all the good work that they put forth to bring forth this recommendation tonight. So please vote yes on 17.2. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Teresa Burgum.
Dr. Clark, board members. Alex has been wonderful. She's been working really well with us. I've been in front of the board, I don't know how many times, for this exact same thing for the last 8 or 9 years. So finally, it's before you, and I hope you approve it. It will be better for the staff, for the kids, for everything. And this isn't an increase in hours. This is the hours we've been working all these years. So again, I want to thank Kim and HR. HR has been terrific. I would say this whole year. So we're just really excited to be working with her. I guess that's it. I just want to thank you and encourage you to approve this finally. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Gloria Cifuentes.
Dr. Clark and board members. It's a pleasure to be here. And first of all, I want to say thank you to this wonderful director that we have, who has inspired us and has moved us and bringing this finally and backing us up on this FTE hours, which, like Teresa just said, we have been working for years and years and not being realized that we're doing something and it's under the table. But now it's in the forefront. And thank you to Alex and everyone else and you all. And I just want to say, I hope that you do approve of this, something that we've been doing for years and years. And I'm sure our employees would really love to hear. Yes, let's do it. Let's go for it. But anyways, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments?
With that, I would like to say, yes, let's do it. And just thank you to everyone who worked so collaboratively, right? I think this is a model of how we get things done to make sure that everything's going to work well, efficiently. It's going to meet the needs of our students and our employees. And, you know, this is the kind of thing that is a model for all other types of problems that we want to solve throughout the district. So thank you all for being that. So with that, I would like to move to approve the Food Service and Teamsters Committee recommendations to increase FTE staffing hours for the Department of Food and Nutrition Services.
Second.
And I just want to say, when I go on a campus, I always go by the kitchen and thank the food workers because I never take advantage of feeding children. Thank you.
All right. The motion from Trustee Count and a second from Trustee Barrios. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes, and I also want to say, as someone that has eaten thousands of meals from school, and I really want to appreciate like the food staff because they literally make some of the best food, as well as you guys need to go during lunch to see how many kids are running to those lunch lines. I had a friend who literally like skedaddled all the way to the MU because the food is so good.
I'll take your word for it, Trustee Barrios, and that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Thank you for rocking it.
They're up early, so you know.
Early.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay. It's very early. All right. Hello, Dr. Rubio. Are you presenting the next item?
I am.
How are you gonna follow that?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. And not as
Are
exciting.
your negotiations coming as successful as that?
Hey, we look forward to that. We look forward to that.
Good.
The next item up for your review and potential approval are some very small changes to board policies to make sure that they're up to date based on what we received from the California School Boards Association. There are 3 variations tonight of a board policy regarding employee compensation with a minor addition for wage overpayment.
Any questions or comments from the board, or should we move on? Okay. All right. 17.4.
I'm so sorry. My apologies. So 17.4 is again board policy update, 3 variations for certificated, classified, and management with an update regarding wage overpayment and Education Code 44042.5. Oh, that's right, because we're even twice. Oh, I am. I'm so sorry. I thought. Oh, I had mine up. My other one's up.
Yeah. Okay.
We did. It looks like this is info action. So
I'll move. I see.
Okay.
So I'll move to approve updates to board policies 6142.8, 6146.1, 6146.4, 6170.4, and administrative regulation 6142.8 and 6173.3 as presented.
I'll second that.
That was a motion from trustee Nzewi and a second by trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes unanimously with concurrence from our student board member. And so that should move us to 17.5. Dr. Rubio, you've been ready?
Thank you. Item 17.5 is an administrative regulation, but it is before you as information.
Yeah.
If you have any questions.
Make it an attorney.
All right, seeing no questions, it looks like we can move on. We have we have nothing to carry over from closed session. And are there any kind of last comments or future agenda items? Okay.